So one thing that I'm seeing more and more as a common trend is that more people who are retiring or getting up there in years are looking at leaving the United States to move to a different country for a multitude of different reasons that we're going to discuss in this video. And I think it's fascinating because that never really used to be the case up until the last couple of decades, now that the cost of living has pushed so many people away. And by the way, this is my wife Lizzie. You might see her pop in and out throughout the video because we're up here in Orlando for the weekend visiting my sister. So
Hi guys.
I'm going to talk about a few different people's stories and what that looked like for them when they had to retire and basically leave the United States. The first one is about a woman who's now 72 years old. She used to live in Texas and she used to be a teacher. She was worried because the $1,200 per month that she gets in Social Security would not be enough to live in the US, which obviously is really not enough for most people to live anywhere in the US. I have heard stories from some of you guys that make it work. And in fact, later in this video, I want to discuss some situations where people actually are making that work. What she decided to do is in January of 2023, she moved to Costa Rica. And I know a couple of people who watch my channel actually did this as well, moved to Costa Rica. And she bought a house for $165,000 US dollars. And each month she spends $300 on groceries, $70 on electricity, and $80 on medications and doctor visits. And she says, I never would have been able to buy this much property in the US and take this amount of weight off of my shoulders and not have to worry about being homeless. And I'm sure that's why a lot of people do it, because not only is the cost of living a lot lower, but that just, relieves that burden, right? Of like, oh, am I gonna worry about running out of money? Am I gonna have to worry about my healthcare expenses? Different things like that. And right now it's probably more popular than ever for retirees to actually leave the US due to how much the cost of living has gone up. Ever since 2020, when we had the pandemic, the cost of living has basically gotten out of control almost everywhere in the United States. And the official numbers are not even worth mentioning because it's not even close to how much people have actually seen an increase in their real cost of living. But right now, we have about 760,000 Americans that live abroad that collect Social Security benefits. Hopefully they're not 150-year-old dead people. And the average benefit right now, as of January of 2025, is about $1,976 a month. But of course, some people get less than that depending on if they retired earlier and decided to take a smaller check in return for getting a check for longer. And I think that a lot of people are choosing to actually go this route because Social Security really is like the end-all be-all for so many that are entering retirement. A lot of people end up in a situation where this is the bulk of your income now. What a lot of Americans want is they want to live in a place where the cost of living is low and the quality of life is high. Well, I think we all want that, whether or not we're retired or not. So just to give you an idea of the places that a lot of American retirees are moving to, they're moving to places like Spain, Portugal, Italy, France, Mexico, Costa Rica, Colombia, Panama, Ecuador, just to name a few. And in pretty much all of these places, they claim that they can live pretty comfortably just on their Social Security check alone. Another woman who recently retired last year in 2024 at 73 years old, she says she could have afforded to continue living here in the US, but it would have been more on the challenging side. She would have had to, watch more of her dollars and cents coming in and out each month and have to worry about whether or not that's affordable. She said she didn't retire as a millionaire, and she wanted to make sure that she would have money in case there was an emergency, something else that might come up that was unexpected. So she decided to move to Barceloneta, Spain, and she now lives in a 2-bedroom apartment with beach views and pays $2,000 a month. And she was living in a similar place in New Jersey before for $4,000 a month. So right away, the rent got cut in half. She says she loves the atmosphere there, the culture, the beaches, really has a great vibe in terms of being able to enjoy her lifestyle now. there's actually a lot of other retired people over there that are kind of doing the same thing. So you feel like you have something in common with a lot of people who are there. You also have a lot of people leaving due to high health care costs. This is a huge problem we have in the United States. I'm sure many people are familiar with. So there's another couple who retired, and they found out that their monthly health insurance premium in retirement was going to be $1,930 a month, which does not include deductibles. And so the total cost would be about 150 grand over the next 7 to 8 years. So they decided that the best thing was to leave the United States. They took their Social Security income of $2,400 a month and they relocated to Cuenca, Ecuador. And shout out to Ed, he lives over there. He's always writing me emails, showing me pictures and different things that are really cool about how cheap it is to live over there. So turns out that's a pretty popular spot for retirees to head over to. So this guy and his wife, they have the $2,400 a month in Social Security income. The husband also has a $570 a month pension that he gets, and they had about $850,000 in assets before leaving. So that's not a bad nest egg, especially moving to a much lower cost of living area like this. So they ended up buying a 1,200 square foot condo for $150,000, and they spend about $177 each month on health insurance compared to $1,950, guys. That is insane, the difference in cost, really, when you look at it. Like less than a tenth of the cost that it is here in the United States. They spend $22 on property taxes compared to the $285 a month in the US, and $39 a month on homeowners insurance compared to $145 here in the US. Groceries, they say, are about the same price as in the US, although Ed, who is one of my viewers that lives over there, he sent me a lot of pictures and things like that showing that the groceries are cheaper there. So I guess maybe it depends on where you shop. And they spend about $300 a month on restaurants and entertainment. So overall, sounds pretty good. So this couple is really enjoying living over there in Ecuador, and they used to eat out once a week when they were living in the US. Now they eat out about 10 times a month, which they seem to like a lot. That's something that they enjoy doing. That's not something I personally would want to do, but hey, everybody has their thing, and if that's what you want to do and that's how you want to spend your retirement, then so be it. Another woman who also decided to leave the US due to the high cost of health care, she was paying over $1,000 a month in insurance. The annual deductible was $10,000 a year, so she had that expense plus the extra $2,200 she would pay in rent and utilities in her small studio apartment. Her and her husband, she ended up moving to Valencia, Spain 2 years ago, and they now rent a 1,200 square foot apartment with a balcony and a terrace for $1,500 a month. So you're getting a place that is far bigger and cheaper and probably a nicer place to live too. She said groceries cost 30 to 40% less each month. Health insurance is about $200 monthly, which is still far less than the $1,000 a month she was paying before. Public transportation costs 40 cents a ride, and a museum visit costs $2. She estimates that they spend about $200 a month on activities and about $300 on Spanish classes. She's also enjoyed the lower cost of travel in Europe, flying from Spain to Morocco for only 80 euros. So not too bad at all. On the one hand, it makes me very happy to hear that people have found nice ways and especially affordable ways to spend their retirement. But it also makes me sad as an American that, people have to do this now if that's the kind of lifestyle you want to live in retirement, unless you're wealthy. Because let's face it, if you're not, you won't be able to live this luxurious lifestyle in retirement. So I guess the good news is that that lifestyle is available to you. But the bad news is that you're going to have to move abroad to make it happen. And the thing is, pretty much everybody who's ever written me, from Thailand to Portugal to Ecuador to Costa Rica, all of my viewers who have written me about this in the past, the one common theme that I see from everybody who's done this is everybody seems to be pretty happy with their decision. I'm sure it comes with an adjustment in the beginning, but overall, it seems like everybody's happy about it, so that's really great to know. Now let's say you're somebody that, even though you don't make a lot of money in retirement and you're worried about the cost of living in retirement, you are still not really keen on the idea of moving to another country. And I don't blame you. As I stand right now, in my late 30s, I couldn't see myself doing something like that, but who knows? I might change my mind as I get older. I also haven't been to any other country besides Brazil, so I can't really say. I've never been to other places to really give it a fair evaluation. But there are plenty of people here in the United States that actually live on Social Security alone, which is kind of amazing when you think about it, considering that the average benefit is barely $2,000 per month. So this $1,976 per month that the average retiree now makes from Social Security is only enough to cover about 40% of the income that a lot of people were earning before they retired. This is the reason why people are supposed to invest and have a 401k or have a substantial savings saved up in order to supplement that income in retirement. Now, there was a woman that was forced into retirement early due to health problems, and she had to retire at 52. So she's getting $900 a month in Social Security disability income, and now those checks are about $1,100 today. When she turns 65, she'll be able to collect even more money when she becomes eligible for her Social Security retirement benefit. So I guess you get both if you're disabled and you reach retirement age and collect Social Security. But she says she's going to be collecting the Social Security that her husband was supposed to get, but now that he's passed away. So this woman, she's trying to live on $1,100 a month right now just on the disability income. And some of the things that she does in order to stretch the dollar and make it work, which I wish they would mention here, where she lives and how much she pays for her monthly house, because that's like the biggest expense that everybody has to face, and obviously that's going to really determine if you're going to be able to make something like this work. But what she does is she collects food stamps. She also volunteers for a charity that pays her $100 weekly plus expenses, so probably gets more than $100 out of it when you add up the payment plus expenses, whatever that is. Maybe they pay her to travel. She also has a cheap $10 per month internet plan that's available to a bunch of low-income Americans. So that's something you can get pretty much anywhere throughout the country now that's available to people. She also cooks at home. She cooks all her meals and lives on staples like cereal, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, things like that in order to get by. And she looks for as many free items that she can get her hands on as possible, whether or not it's something that you can use, whether it's something you can sell to somebody else, that's the deal. So it's not really a huge surprise that this is what somebody in this situation has to resort to. But the point of the story is that someone out there is making this work. Someone is able to actually live off of $1,100 a month, which is kind of insane to me, guys. Like, I'm really surprised that she's able to make this work. And that's why I wish they would have mentioned where she lives and how much she pays for her rent, or maybe she doesn't have that payment. I don't know. To me, it sounds like even if you lived in the cheapest area of the country, it would still be almost impossible to make that budget work. Maybe she also gets some sort of Section 8 voucher or something like that as well. I don't know. But if you find yourself in a similar situation like this, then you might have to start thinking about some sacrifices that need to be made in retirement. Of course, you can also be very smart about where you choose to live. I mean, you won't really have much of a choice if you're trying to get by on such a low income. You can, be very conservative with your energy and your electricity usage in order to cut back on those type of bills. Obviously, you can have pretty much nothing in terms of entertainment if that's something that's okay with you, that can cut back on that expense. And if possible, you can even try to delay collecting your Social Security benefits to the maximum benefit year. That way you can get the most amount of money when you do actually start collecting that check, if that's something that's important to you. But personally, I think the better approach for most people is to, plan ahead. You don't want to get to a stage where you're in retirement and now you're like, oops, I'm retired now, I don't have my job anymore, and I don't know what I'm going to do, and I don't have enough money. Obviously, that's not possible for a lot of people who it's too late for. You're already at the situation where you're in your late 60s or 70s, and maybe you can't work anymore for a reason, or you just don't want to, and you're just kind of forced to live off of what's available at the moment. Then you're going to have to do a lot of the things we talked about in this video. But personally, I think it's better to give yourself a runway, you know, to collect as much in savings and investments as possible as you can before you reach that period in life, so that way you don't have to make as many sacrifices and you can live a little more comfortably regardless of where you choose to live, whether it's here in the US or somewhere else abroad, just to make that dollar go further. But it is truly amazing how far people can make their money go when you decide to move to another country. Like, I always think of Ed, for example, since he's always the one writing me emails, and he's over in Cuenca, Ecuador. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but you know, just it's amazing because he was telling me that him and his wife have been able to retire over there on their Social Security benefits alone, and they have money saved and invested into high interest savings accounts over there that pay a much higher interest rate than they pay here in the United States, and that's more than enough for them to live a happy and healthy life over there. So it all depends. It depends on what you're looking for, depends on if you're open-minded enough to leave the United States. You know, that's something you have to consider, and it looks like you can have a nice life if you're open to the idea, but just don't expect your life to be the same. You're going to be taking on some major changes, and those things can be something that a lot of people might not be able to handle and something that some people might just love and embrace. So definitely go check it out before you decide to move to another country. Don't just go by what we talked about here or what other people tell you, because it might be different for you. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.